The Great Hall of the Galactic Council floated in the darkness of space, a massive structure of crystal and light that orbited a dying star. Inside, hundreds of beings from across the galaxy gathered in their designated sections. Some floated in tanks of liquid. Others sat on cushions of anti-gravity. A few existed as pure energy, their forms flickering like candles in the dark. Ambassador Veltrin of the Gelnari Collective stood in the center of the chamber. Her species was tall and thin, with skin that shimmered like pearl. Her large eyes held no pupils, just swirling colors that changed with her emotions. Right now those eyes were dark purple, the color of deep fear. "Honored Council," she said, her voice carrying through the translation devices that let all species understand each other. "My people are dying. We have come to beg for your help." The council members shifted uncomfortably. They all knew why the Gelnari had come. Everyone had heard the reports. "The Kreshkar swarm has entered our space," Veltrin continued. Her voice shook slightly. "They have already consumed 2 of our colony worlds. Every living thing on those planets is gone, eaten, processed into fuel for their bioships. Over 3 billion souls vanished in mere cycles." A hologram appeared above the chamber floor. It showed a planet that had once been green and blue, covered in cities and forests. Now it was brown and dead, the surface stripped down to bare rock. Massive insect-like ships swarmed around it like flies on a corpse. "The swarm is now attacking our homeworld, Valora Prime," Veltrin said. "We have 2.3 billion people there. We have 3 cycles before our defenses fail. Maybe less." The council chamber filled with concerned murmurs and clicking sounds. The Rothani delegation, beings made of living crystal, chimed sadly. The Vexer representatives, who looked like floating jellyfish, pulsed with distressed colors. High Chancellor Mordan, a being that resembled a large slug with multiple eye stalks, raised one appendage for silence. His species, the Torthene, had led the council for 10,000 years. "Ambassador Veltrin," Mordan said slowly, "we understand your pain. We truly do. But the Kreshkar swarm is... They are not an enemy that can be fought with conventional means. They number in the billions. They feel no fear. They cannot be reasoned with. They exist only to consume. Then you will not help us?" Veltrin's voice cracked. "You will let my entire species die?" "It is not that we will not help," said Councillor Zexatari, a being made of geometric shapes that constantly rearrange themselves. "It is that we cannot. Look at our fleets, Ambassador. We have ships built for exploration, for transport, for scientific research. Our weapons are designed to disable, not destroy. Our entire civilization has spent 50,000 years moving beyond violence." "Moving beyond violence," Veltrin repeated bitterly. "How wonderful for you! My people never pursued violence either. We are telepaths. We share thoughts and feelings. We build gardens and create art. And now we are being torn apart and eaten while the galaxy's greatest civilization tells us they have moved beyond helping us." The council chamber fell silent. The truth of her words hung in the air like a weight. "There must be someone," Veltrin said desperately. "Anyone, a species with weapons, with warships, with soldiers who can fight." "The Kreshkar have destroyed every military species they have encountered," Mordan said. "The Vraxis clans were warriors bred for battle. The swarm consumed them in 12 cycles. The Korthan Empire had weapons that could crack planets. They lasted 18 cycles. What makes you think anyone can stop them now?" Veltrin was silent for a long moment. Her colors shifted through purple, then red, then to something close to black. When she spoke again, her voice was quiet. "What about the Deathworlders?" The entire council chamber erupted in shocked sounds. Clicking, humming, whistling, and electronic screeches filled the air. "Absolutely not." Mordan's eye stalks all focused on her at once. "You cannot be serious, Ambassador." "I am completely serious," Veltrin said. "The humans, from the planet they call Earth, you have studied them. You quarantined their entire system because you were afraid of them. With good reason." Councillor Zextari's shape spun rapidly. "Do you know what kind of world they come from? Their planet is classified as a Class 12 death world. The gravity alone would crush most of our species. The diseases on that planet have killed billions of them throughout their history. Their oceans are filled with creatures that can eat them whole. Their weather systems regularly spawn storms that destroy entire cities. And yet they survived," Veltrin said. "Not just survived," added another counselor, a being of smoke and light named Whisper Through Void. "They thrived. They became the apex predator on a planet full of apex predators. Every single species on their world that could threaten them, they either killed, domesticated, or learned to avoid. They are persistence hunters. Do you understand what that means? It means they chase their prey until it collapses from exhaustion. It means they never give up. Veltrin said softly. It means they are dangerous, Mordan insisted. Their entire history is violence. War after war after war. They have weapons designed specifically to kill each other. Nuclear bombs, biological agents, chemical weapons. They have destroyed their own population centers in their conflicts. We quarantined them not to protect us from them, but to protect them from themselves. And yet, Veltrin said, in the 18 months since first contact, they have not attacked anyone. They have not invaded anyone. They have asked repeatedly to join the Council as partners. They have offered to share their technology. They have sent ambassadors who speak of peace and cooperation. Pretty words, Sextari said dismissively, but we have seen their entertainment media. Their stories glorify violence. They celebrate warriors and battles. They have a phrase, war is hell. They know how terrible it is, and yet they keep doing it. Maybe, Veltrin said, her colors brightening to something like hope. Maybe that is because they know how to do it. Maybe that is what we need right now. The chamber fell silent again. The council members looked at each other through various sensory organs. The humans have warships, Veltrin continued. Real warships. We have seen them in our intelligence reports. Ships designed for combat. Weapons meant to destroy. Soldiers trained to fight. Everything we spent 50,000 years evolving beyond. They have perfected. If we contact them, Morden said slowly, if we ask them to come and fight for us, we are admitting that all our philosophy, all our evolution toward peace was wrong. We are saying that violence has a place in civilized society. No, Veltrin said. We are saying that when innocent people are being slaughtered, doing nothing is worse than doing something. We are saying that survival matters, that life matters, that my children, and my children's children, deserve a chance to exist. She looked around the chamber at all the gathered species. Send the message, she said. Please. If you have any compassion at all, send the message to Earth. Beg the Deathworlders for help. Because in 3 cycles my species will cease to exist, and the galaxy will have one less voice crying out for peace. High Chancellor Mordan was quiet for a very long time. His eye stalks drooped, a sign of sadness in his species. Very well, he said finally. Transmit the distress call to the Sol system. Mark it urgent, Council priority. And may the old stars have mercy on us all for what we are about to unleash. The message was sent at faster than light speeds, crossing the vast distance between the Council chambers and the small yellow star that humans called the Sun. It carried coordinates, tactical information, and a simple plea. Help us. In the Council chamber, Veltrin stood alone and waited. She did not know if the humans would answer. She did not know if they would care about aliens they had never met. She only knew that they were her last hope, 3 cycles until her homeworld fell. The countdown had begun. Admiral Catherine Morrison was drinking coffee when the message arrived. It was real coffee, grown in the orbital farms above Earth, not the synthetic stuff they served on most ships. She believed good coffee helped people make good decisions. She would need to make a lot of decisions today. Admiral, incoming transmission, her aide said, stepping into her office at the United Earth Defense Command headquarters. It is from the Galactic Council. Priority urgent. Catherine set down her cup. In the 18 months since humanity had made contact with alien life, they had received exactly 7 messages from the Council. 6 of them were warnings to stay in their own system. 1 was a catalog of rules humanity needed to follow if they wanted to be considered civilized. This was the first time the Council had marked anything urgent. Play it, she said. The holographic display activated. A tall, shimmering alien appeared, her colors swirling with what the translation software marked as extreme distress. I am Ambassador Veltrin of the Gelnari Collective, the alien said. We are under attack by the Kreshkar swarm. 2 of our worlds have fallen. Our homeworld will be destroyed in 3 standard cycles. The Galactic Council cannot help us. We have nowhere else to turn. If any humans are listening to this message, we beg you, please help us. We are a peaceful people. We have children, families. We do not want to die, please. The message ended. The holographic alien vanished, leaving only coordinates and tactical data hanging in the air. Catherine stared at the empty space where the alien had been. She thought about those words. We have children, families, we do not want to die. She picked up her phone. Get me the Earth Assembly. Emergency session. And activate the expeditionary fleet. We have work to do. 3 hours later, Catherine stood before the representatives of Earth's unified government. The assembly chamber was filled with leaders from every nation on the planet. On the screens behind her, she showed them the alien's message and the tactical data. The Kreshkar swarm is a hive mind species, she explained. They consume organic material to fuel their growth. They have destroyed dozens of civilizations. Their bioships number in the millions. They cannot be reasoned with or negotiated with. They exist only to eat and reproduce. And the Galactic Council? Asked Ambassador Chen, Earth's representative. What are they doing? Nothing, Catherine said bluntly. Their ships are built for science and exploration. They have no weapons worth mentioning. They have no soldiers. They spent 50,000 years evolving beyond violence. That philosophy works great until someone violent shows up. Why should we help them? Asked Representative Kowalski from the European zone. They quarantined us, called us dangerous, treated us like animals who might bite. Because it is the right thing to do, Catherine said simply. There are 2.3 billion people on that planet who are going to die if nobody helps them. They did not ask to be attacked. They did not do anything wrong. They are just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And because, added General Okonkwo, head of the Mars Defense Force, if we do nothing, we tell the galaxy exactly what kind of species we are. We tell them that humans only care about humans. That we will watch innocent people die and do nothing. The assembly chamber was quiet for a moment. I have another reason, Catherine said. The Kreshkar swarm is consuming everything in its path. Right now, they are 200 light-years from Earth. If they finish with the Jelnari, they will keep moving. Keep eating. Eventually, they will find us. I would rather fight them 200 light-years away than in our own solar system. How long do we have? Asked Representative Amadi from the African Union. 3 cycles. About 6 Earth days. If we leave immediately, we can get there with maybe 6 hours to spare. What do you need? Ambassador Chen asked. Everything, Catherine said. The vote was unanimous. Earth would answer the call. Catherine returned to the orbital shipyards above Earth where the Terran Expeditionary Fleet was stationed. These were not exploration vessels. These were warships built during the Mars Rebellion when the colonies tried to break away from Earth. They were designed for one purpose, to fight and win. The fleet consisted of 47 ships. At the center was the UED's Indomitable, a carrier battleship that served as the flagship. It was a massive vessel, 3 kilometers long, covered in armor plating and bristling with weapons. Around it were the heavy cruisers, destroyers, and frigates that would form the battle group. The ships looked nothing like the elegant alien vessels humanity had seen. Those were smooth and curved, made of exotic materials that shimmered in the light. Human ships were angular and brutal. They looked like flying fortresses made of metal and violence. Catherine walked through the hangar bay of the Indomitable, watching the crews prepare for departure. Pilots checked their fighters. Marines loaded equipment. Engineers ran final tests on the weapon systems. She found Sergeant Marcus Chen in the Marine section drilling his squad. He was a veteran of the Jupiter mining conflicts, where corporations had fought each other for control of the gas giants' moons. He had sharp eyes and scars on his face from a plasma burn. Sergeant, Catherine said, we have a mission. I heard, Admiral, Marcus said. We are going to save some aliens who think we are monsters. We are going to save people who need help, Catherine corrected. That is what matters. Marcus nodded slowly. My squad is ready. We have been training for this our whole lives, even if we did not know it. Catherine moved through the ship, talking to more crew members. She found the same thing everywhere. Determination. Purpose. Nobody was forced to go. Every single person on these ships had volunteered when they heard about the mission. In the pilot briefing room, Commander Lisa Park was going over the tactical data with her squadron. The Kreshkar bioships are alive, she explained. They are tough but not indestructible. Our railguns should punch through them just fine. The problem is there are millions of them. Millions? Asked one of the younger pilots. How are we supposed to fight millions? The same way humans have always fought when outnumbered, Lisa said with a grim smile. Smart, aggressive, and really, really angry that somebody thought they could push us around. Down in engineering, Chief Engineer Rodriguez was making final adjustments to the FTL drive. Human faster-than-light technology was different from what the aliens used. Theirs was elegant and efficient, gently bending space around their ships. Human drives were described by one alien scientist as ripping a hole in reality and diving through before the universe noticed. "How fast can we go, Chief?" Catherine asked. "Faster than we should," Rodriguez said. "I can push the drives to 120%. It will be rough, but we will get there in time." "Do it," Catherine ordered. 6 hours after receiving the distress call, the Terran expeditionary fleet was ready to depart. Catherine stood on the bridge of the Indomitable looking at the Earth below. It was a beautiful blue and green marble, their home, a death world that had tried to kill humanity for millions of years and failed. "All ships report ready, Admiral," her tactical officer said. Catherine thought about the alien ambassador's message, about the children and families who were going to die, about the council species who had given up on violence but had never needed to learn what humanity knew. Sometimes violence was the answer. Not because it was pretty or noble, but because sometimes people needed protecting and monsters needed stopping. "Send a message to the Jolnari," Catherine said. "Tell them help is coming. Tell them to hold on just a little longer." "What else should we say, Admiral?" Catherine smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a predator that had spotted prey, the smile of a species from a death world that had never learned to back down. "Tell them the Deathworlders are coming, and we are really good at fighting." The fleet's FTL drives activated. Space tore open in 47 places. Reality screaming in protest as the human ships punched through and vanished. They left Earth behind and raced toward a war zone 200 light-years away. In the holds of those ships were 15,000 soldiers, pilots, and Marines. They came from every nation on Earth, every culture, every background. But they shared one thing: they were human. They were from a planet that had tried to kill them every day and failed. They had evolved to be tough, stubborn, and really hard to kill. The Kreshkar swarm had destroyed dozens of civilizations. They had consumed billions of lives. They had never lost a battle. They were about to learn what happened when they threatened a species that evolution had spent millions of years teaching how to fight back. The countdown continued. 3 cycles until Valora Prime fell. But now, racing through the darkness at impossible speeds, help was coming. The Terran expeditionary fleet tore back into normal space at the edge of the Valora system. The transition from faster-than-light travel was violent. Space rippled and screamed. Reality bent and snapped back. The human crews endured the rough crossing because they had built their ships tough and trained their bodies tougher. Admiral Catherine Morrison stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and immediately felt her stomach turn. Not from the FTL transition, from what she saw on the tactical display. "Dear God," whispered her tactical officer. The Valora system was dying. 2 of the outer planets showed as lifeless gray spheres on the sensors. Once they had been colony worlds with cities and farms. Now they were stripped to bare rock. Not a single living thing remained. Not a plant. Not a microbe, nothing. Around the 3rd planet, Valora Prime, space was filled with movement. Millions of contacts swarmed like insects around food. The Kreshkar swarm had arrived in force. "Give me visual," Catherine ordered. The main screen activated. What she saw made her hands clench into fists. The Kreshkar bioships looked like enormous insects crossed with deep-sea creatures. They were alive, covered in chitinous armor and pulsing with internal light. Some were small, maybe the size of a fighter jet. Others were massive, kilometers long, with tentacles that could wrap around entire ships. All of them moved with purpose, coordinated by the hive mind that controlled them. Between the swarm and the planet, a handful of Jolnari ships tried desperately to hold the line. Their vessels were beautiful, made of crystal and light. They were also being torn apart. As Catherine watched, one of the alien ships was swarmed by dozens of bioships. Acid sprayed across its hull. Claws ripped through the crystal structure. In seconds, it was nothing but debris. "Sensors." "Report," Catherine said, forcing her voice to stay calm. "Counting approximately 4.2 million Kreshkar bioships in the system," the sensor officer said. "The Jolnari have 17 ships remaining. They are falling back to the planet. Estimate they have, Admiral, they have maybe 2 hours before the swarm breaks through completely." "We made it just in time then," Catherine said. She pressed the fleet-wide communication button. All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. We came here to do a job. There are 2.3 billion people on that planet who need our help. The Council species said nobody could fight the swarm. Let us show them what humans can do. All ships weapons free. Formation Delta 7. Target the densest clusters first. Show these bugs what a death world breeds. The 47 ships of the Terran fleet accelerated toward the swarm. They moved fast, much faster than the Council species expected. Human ships could pull high-G maneuvers because human bodies could handle it. Evolution on a high-gravity world had made humanity denser, stronger, more resistant to the forces that would kill frailer species. Range in 30 seconds, the tactical officer reported. Targeting solutions locked. All batteries, Catherine said. Fire. The human fleet opened up with everything they had. Railguns fired first. These were not energy weapons or particle beams. They were simple kinetic weapons, using magnetic acceleration to fire chunks of tungsten at a significant fraction of light speed. When those slugs hit the Kreshkar bioships, they did not burn holes. They punched straight through, the kinetic energy turning living tissue into explosions of frozen biomass and shattered chitin. The first volley killed thousands of bioships in seconds. The Kreshkar swarm reacted immediately. The hive mind that controlled them was not stupid. It recognized a threat. Millions of bioships turned away from Valora Prime and rushed toward the human fleet. Here they come, the tactical officer said unnecessarily. The sensor screen looked like a snowstorm of hostile contacts. Missile pods, prepare to fire, Catherine ordered. Make it count. The human destroyers and cruisers opened their missile bays. Hundreds of rockets launched, their engines burning bright in the darkness. These were not precision weapons. They were area denial munitions, each carrying multiple nuclear warheads designed to detonate in patterns. The first wave of Kreshkar bioships hit the missile field. Nuclear fire blossomed in space, silent explosions that vaporized everything within their radius. Tens of thousands of bioships died in those first moments, but millions remained. The swarm crashed into the human fleet like a tidal wave of teeth and claws. 3 human destroyers were immediately swarmed, their hulls covered in bioships trying to claw through the armor. HMS Defiant is reporting heavy damage, communications reported. They are covered in hostiles, armor breaching on multiple decks. Catherine watched as the Defiant, a destroyer that had fought in the Mars Rebellion, disappeared under a mass of alien creatures. She could almost hear the sounds of claws scraping on metal, of acid eating through armor. Defiant, this is Morrison. Can you shake them? Negative, Admiral. The voice of Captain Rodriguez came through, calm despite the situation. We have tried everything. They are too many. They are eating through to engineering. Catherine made a decision. It was the kind of decision that would give her nightmares later, but it had to be made. Captain Rodriguez, do you have manual control of your reactor? There was a pause. Then Rodriguez laughed. It was a dark laugh, but genuine. I understand, Admiral. It has been an honor serving with you. The honor was mine, Captain. Give them hell. The Defiant stopped trying to escape. Instead, it accelerated directly into the thickest part of the swarm. More and more bioships attached to its hull, thinking they had killed it. The destroyer pushed deep into the swarm's center. Then its fusion reactor overloaded. The explosion was a miniature sun. Everything within 10 kilometers simply ceased to exist. The bioships on the Defiant's hull, the thousands of Kreshkar ships nearby, all of it turned to superheated plasma in an instant. The swarm faltered. For the first time in its thousands of years of existence, the hive mind felt something like confusion. The prey had destroyed itself to hurt the swarm. That was not normal behavior. Prey ran, prey hid. Prey did not turn around and bite back. Catherine forced herself to look away from the fading fireball where the Defiant had been. She would mourn later. Right now she had a battle to win. All fighters launch, she ordered. The Indomitable and the other carriers opened their bays. Hundreds of small craft poured out, piloted by humans who had trained their whole lives for this moment. The fighters were fast and agile, armed with plasma cannons and tactical missiles. Commander Lisa Park led her squadron into the swarm. The Kreshkar bioships were everywhere, but she had trained for this. She pulled maneuvers that would have killed an alien pilot, the G-forces pushing her down into her seat. Her targeting computer screamed warnings as bioships tried to track her. She ignored them and fired, her plasma cannons burning through alien chitin. "Stay tight," she yelled to her squadron. "Watch your six. They are trying to swarm us." One of her pilots, a young woman named Chen, was too slow. 3 bioships latched onto her fighter. She tried to shake them, but they were too strong. "I am hit. I am hit. They are on my hull." "Chen, eject," Lisa ordered. "Negative. If I eject, they will eat me." "I am taking them with me." Chen's fighter accelerated directly into a cluster of bioships and detonated its remaining missiles. The explosion took out dozens of the enemy. Lisa gritted her teeth and kept fighting. This was what war was. This was what the Council species did not understand. Sometimes good people died doing the right thing. Humanity had learned that lesson thousands of years ago, written in blood across countless battlefields. The battle raged for hours. The human ships fought with a ferocity the Kreshkar had never encountered. When their long-range weapons ran dry, they closed to point-blank range and used their close-in defense systems. When those ran out, they rammed. The cruiser Thunderchild, crippled in venting atmosphere, crashed directly into a Kreshkar megaship. The collision broke both vessels apart, but it created an opening that let 2 destroyers pour fire into a cluster of bioships behind it. "Status report," Catherine demanded, 12 hours into the battle. "We have lost 7 ships," her tactical officer said. "Another 14 are heavily damaged." "But Admiral," the officer's voice held something like awe, "we have killed over 1.5 million Kreshkar bioships. The swarm is pulling back from Valora Prime. They are focusing everything on us." Catherine smiled grimly. "Good, that is what we wanted. Keep them away from those civilians." On Valora Prime, Ambassador Veltrin watched the battle from the planet's surface. She could see the explosions in orbit, bright flashes against the darkness of space. The human ships were fighting with an intensity she had never imagined possible. The Jelnari defenders, their remaining ships battered but still functional, rallied beside the humans. They could not match the human firepower, but they could provide shields and targeting data. "Who are they?" one of the Jelnari captains asked in wonder. "Who are these humans that fight like demons?" "They are from a Deathworld," Veltrin said softly. "A planet that tried to kill them for millions of years. They learned to fight back, and now they are fighting for us." In space, the tide of battle began to turn. The Kreshkar swarm was not used to prey that fought back this hard. The hive mind was ancient and experienced, but it had never faced persistence hunters before. It had never faced a species that refused to break. The human fleet kept fighting. When they ran low on ammunition, they adjusted tactics. When their weapons overheated, the battle in orbit was not over, but the Kreshkar had learned they could not simply overwhelm the human fleet. The swarm began to change tactics. If they could not win in space, they would win on the ground. Massive bioships, each one the size of a small building, began breaking away from the main swarm and diving toward Valora Prime. They were designed to carry invasion forces, living creatures bred specifically to attack ground targets and process organic life. "Admiral, the Kreshkar are landing ground forces," the tactical officer reported. "Dozens of landing ships. They are targeting population centers." Catherine Morrison felt her jaw tighten. She had expected this. The swarm always deployed ground forces once they broke through orbital defenses. It was how they processed entire planets. "What do the Jelnari have for ground defense?" she asked. "Minimal," the communications officer said, checking the data the aliens had provided. "They are a peaceful species. They have security forces for crowd control and emergency services, but nothing designed for warfare. The Kreshkar ground forces will tear through them in minutes." Catherine made her decision. "Launch the drop pods. All Marine units execute ground assault protocol. Show them what human soldiers can do." In the belly of the Indomitable and the other carriers, 3,000 Marines prepared for deployment. They wore powered armor, thick plates of composite material over mechanical exoskeletons that enhanced strength and speed. Each suit was painted in earth colors, greens and browns and grays. War colors. Sergeant Marcus Chen checked his squad one final time. He had 12 soldiers under his command, all veterans of various Earth conflicts. They had trained for years, but this would be their first combat against aliens. "Listen up," Marcus said. "The enemy on the ground are living weapons. They are big, they are fast, and they want to eat the civilians. Our job is simple. Get between the Kreshkar and the Jelnari. Hold the line. Do not let them through." "Understood?" "Understood, Sergeant," his squad shouted back. Good, now get in your pods and remember your training. We are the Terran Marines. We are from Earth, we do not break. The drop pods were essentially armored coffins with rockets attached. They would launch from orbit, fall through the atmosphere protected by heat shields, and crash land near the combat zones. It was a brutal, dangerous method of deployment. It was also fast and put soldiers exactly where they needed to be. Marcus climbed into his pod and sealed it shut. The interior was cramped, barely larger than his armored body. He could hear his own breathing inside the helmet. The pod systems came online, displays showing his trajectory and landing zone. All pods ready for launch. Came the voice of the drop master over the radio. Launching in 3, 2, 1, drop. Marcus felt the sudden kick as his pod launched from the ship. Then he was falling, accelerating toward the planet below. The pod shook and rattled. Warning lights flashed. The heat shield glowed cherry red as it hit the atmosphere. This was what separated humans from most council species. Other aliens would never willingly fall from orbit in a metal box and trust that they would survive. Humans did it regularly, just another way that evolution on a death world had made them crazy enough to try anything. The pod's retro rockets fired at the last second, slowing the descent just enough. Then it hit the ground with a massive impact. Marcus felt his teeth rattle despite the shock absorption system. The pod's doors blew off with explosive charges. He stepped out into chaos. The landing zone was in what had been a beautiful city of crystal towers and hanging gardens. Now it was a war zone. Buildings were on fire. Jelnari civilians were running, screaming in panic. And everywhere there were Kreshkar. The ground forces looked nothing like the bioships. These were massive creatures, each one 3 meters tall and covered in razor-sharp chitin. They had too many legs, too many eyes, and mouths full of teeth designed to rend and tear. They moved fast, scuttling across the ground and up walls with terrible speed. Marcus raised his rifle and fired. The armor-piercing rounds punched through the Kreshkar's shell and it collapsed, twitching. Around him, his squad emerged from their pods and immediately engaged the enemy. Form a perimeter, Marcus ordered. Civilians to the rear. Anything that tries to get through us, you kill it. The Kreshkar noticed the humans and charged. They were used to prey that ran. They were not ready for prey that stood its ground and shot back. The human Marines opened fire with everything they had. Rifles, grenades, plasma charges. The sound was deafening. The Kreshkar kept coming, driven by the hive mind to attack and consume. One of the creatures broke through the initial line and charged directly at Marcus. He stood his ground, firing his rifle until it clicked empty. The Kreshkar was still coming. Marcus dropped the rifle and pulled out his combat knife, a monomolecular blade sharp enough to cut through almost anything. The creature leaped at him. Marcus sidestepped with the enhanced speed his armor gave him, and drove the knife up into what he hoped was a vital spot. The blade went in deep. The Kreshkar screeched and thrashed, but Marcus held on, twisting the knife until the creature stopped moving. He pulled the knife out and immediately engaged another target. There was no time to think, no time to be afraid. This was what he had trained for. This was what humans did. Behind the Marine line, Jelnari civilians huddled together. They watched in amazement as the human soldiers fought creatures that would have killed them in seconds. The humans were so small compared to the Kreshkar, and yet they were winning. Fall back to checkpoint Delta, Marcus ordered. We need to get these civilians to the evacuation shuttles. His squad began a fighting retreat, maintaining their formation as they moved. Every time a Kreshkar got close, they killed it. Every time the line started to buckle, they adjusted and held. Other Marine units were scattered across the city, each one holding a defensive position. Some guarded evacuation points. Others protected hospitals and schools. A few were deep behind enemy lines, setting up ambushes and destroying Kreshkar landing ships before they could deploy more forces. Lieutenant Sarah, Kim's squad had drawn one of the hardest assignments, defending a civilian shelter that held over 10,000 Jelnari refugees. The shelter was built into a hillside with only one entrance. The Kreshkar were swarming toward it, drawn by the concentration of life inside. They really want in, said Private Johnson, firing controlled bursts from his position. They keep coming no matter how many we kill. Then we keep killing them, Sarah said simply. Set up the claymores. When they get close, we blow them back. Grenades on my mark. Make every shot count. The Kreshkar charged in a wave, hundreds of them rushing toward the shelter entrance. The Marines waited until the last possible second. Now, Sarah yelled. The claymore mines detonated, shredding the first wave of Kreshkar. Grenades flew through the air and exploded. The Marines poured fire into the mass of alien bodies. The Kreshkar kept coming, climbing over their own dead to reach the humans. One of Sarah's soldiers went down, his armor breached by Kreshkar claws. 2 more Marines immediately pulled him back while others filled the gap in the line. That was how humans fought. They protected each other. They never left anyone behind. Armor breach on Sector 3. Someone shouted, "Patch it!
Keep fighting!"
Hours passed. The Marines fought without pause, their ammunition running low, their armor damaged and leaking. But they held. They always held. Marcus Chen's squad had been fighting for 6 straight hours when they finally reached an evacuation shuttle. Jelnari civilians rushed aboard, crying with relief. Marcus counted them as they passed, making sure every single one got on the shuttle safely. His armor was covered in alien blood and his own. A Kreshkar had gotten through his defenses earlier and torn a gash in his side. The armor's medical systems had sealed the wound and pumped him full of painkillers, but he could feel the damage. "Sergeant, that is the last of them," said Corporal Davis. "We need to get on that shuttle." "Not yet," Marcus said. "There might be more civilians. We sweep the area one more time. Sergeant, you are bleeding. I will bleed later. Right now we have a job to do." They found 3 more Jelnari hiding in a collapsed building, too scared to move. Marcus personally carried 2 of them to the shuttle, his armor's servos straining under the weight. When the last civilian was aboard, he finally allowed himself to get on. As the shuttle lifted off, Marcus looked down at the city below. It was scarred and burning, but it was still there. The Kreshkar had not won. The civilians had been saved. Across the planet, similar scenes were playing out. Human Marines held the line in 100 different places. Some positions were overrun. Some squads were completely wiped out. But every single Marine fought until their last breath, buying time for the Jelnari to evacuate. The Kreshkar hive mind was experiencing something it had never felt before: uncertainty. These humans were supposed to be easy prey, small, soft, fragile. Instead, they fought with a ferocity that matched the swarm's own. They refused to break. They refused to run. Even when they were wounded, they kept fighting. In one engagement, a single human Marine, his armor destroyed and his body broken, managed to rig a Kreshkar landing ship with explosives. He detonated them manually, destroying the SC. The battle for Valora Prime was over. The Kreshkar swarm, for the first time in its thousands of years of existence, had retreated. The bioships fled the system, leaving behind millions of their dead floating in the darkness of space. The hive mind had learned a lesson written in fire and blood. Humanity was not prey, Admiral Catherine. Morrison stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched as recovery teams searched for survivors among the wreckage. 7 human ships had been destroyed completely. Another 14 were so badly damaged they would need to be towed back to Earth. Of the 15,000 humans who had come to Valora Prime, 2,847 would never go home. Catherine felt every single loss like a weight on her chest. She knew their names. She had read their files. They had been teachers and farmers and engineers who had volunteered to become soldiers because someone needed help. Now they were gone, but 2.3 billion Jelnari were alive because of them. On the surface of Valora Prime, Sergeant Marcus Chen sat outside a medical tent, his side bandaged and his armor piled nearby. Around him, other Marines rested, some sleeping, others staring at nothing. They were alive. So many of their brothers and sisters were not. A Jelnari child approached cautiously. She was small, with shimmering skin that cycled through nervous colors. She held something in her hands, a flower that grew on her world, pale blue with silver edges. "Thank you," she said in halting English, the translation device on her collar helping. "You saved my family. You saved everyone." Marcus looked at her for a long moment. Then he reached out and gently took the flower. "You are welcome, kid. That is what we do." The child's colors shifted to something bright and happy. She ran back to her family who stood nearby watching. They bowed to Marcus, a gesture of deep respect in their culture. All across the planet, similar scenes were playing out. Jelnari civilians approached human soldiers with gifts, with thanks, with tears. They had watched these strange aliens fight like demons to protect them. They had seen humans die rather than let the Kreshkar through. Ambassador Veltrin walked through the ruins of her planet's capital city. Buildings were collapsed, gardens were burned, but her people were alive. She found Admiral Morrison inspecting a damaged human destroyer that had made an emergency landing. "Admiral," Beltran said. Her colors were complex, shifting through emotions that her species rarely felt all at once. Grief, gratitude, shame, hope. Catherine turned to face her. The Admiral looked exhausted, her uniform dirty and her eyes red from lack of sleep. "Ambassador," Catherine said, "your people are safe. The evacuation is nearly complete. We can help you rebuild." "Why?" Beltran asked. The question came out raw, filled with genuine confusion. "Why did you help us?" "We are strangers. The Council told you to stay away. We called your species dangerous." "Why did you come?" Catherine was quiet for a moment. Then she said simply, "Because you asked. Because you needed help. Because we could. Is there supposed to be another reason?" Beltran felt something break inside her. It was not a bad feeling. It was like a wall coming down, letting in light. She stepped forward and did something Jelnari rarely did with other species. She reached out and touched Catherine's hand. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for teaching us that strength and compassion are not opposites. Thank you for showing us that people from a death world can be the kindest of all." News of the battle spread across the galaxy at light speed, carried by automated communication systems and merchant ships. The footage was incredible. Human vessels fighting against impossible odds, Marines holding the line against creatures twice their size, ships sacrificing themselves to protect civilians they had never met. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The massive chamber was filled with agitated representatives all talking at once. High Chancellor Morden called for order, his eye stalks waving frantically. "The humans have done what should have been impossible," Councillor Zextari said, their geometric shapes spinning rapidly. "They defeated the Kreshkar swarm. A force that has consumed dozens of civilizations was driven away by a single fleet. They lost nearly 3,000 soldiers," another councillor pointed out. "That is a catastrophic casualty rate, and yet they saved 2.3 billion Jelnari," Beltran said. She had been invited to address the council directly. They did not count the cost. They did not negotiate payment. They did not ask what they would receive. They simply came when we called. "Can any of you say the same?" The council chamber fell silent. The truth of her words was undeniable. "The humans are dangerous," Mordan said slowly. "That much is proven. But perhaps we have been thinking about danger in the wrong way." "What do you mean?" asked Whisper through Void. "We quarantined them because we feared they would harm us," Morden said. "But what if their capacity for violence is what makes them valuable? What if the galaxy needs Deathworlders to protect the rest of us from threats we cannot face?" The debate raged for hours. Some counselors argued that humanity was too unpredictable, too aggressive. Others pointed out that the Kreshkar would have destroyed the Jelnari if not for human intervention. What would happen the next time a violent species threatened peaceful worlds? Finally, Ambassador Chen of Earth was allowed to address the council. She stood in the center of the chamber, representing all of humanity. "Honored counselors," she began, "you have spent much time debating what kind of species we are. Let me tell you, we are humans. We come from a world that tried to kill us every single day for millions of years. We learned to be tough. We learned to be stubborn. We learned to fight back. But we also learned something else." She paused, looking around at all the alien species watching her. "We learned to protect each other. On our world, in our tribes and families and nations, we survived by working together, by defending those who could not defend themselves. Yes, we have had wars, terrible bloody wars, but we also have heroes who run into burning buildings to save strangers, soldiers who throw themselves on grenades to protect their friends, parents who would die for their children without hesitation. You see Deathworlders," Chen continued. "You see dangerous, violent beings. We see ourselves as survivors, as protectors. Yes, we can fight, but we fight for something. We fight for people who need help. We fight because sometimes violence is the only answer to violence. The Kreshkar do not negotiate. They do not compromise, they eat. If you want to stop them, you have to fight them." She took a deep breath. "The Galactic Council has spent 50,000 years evolving beyond violence. That is beautiful. That is admirable. But it only works if everyone evolves with you. The Kreshkar did not evolve. They are still predators. And predators only understand one thing, a prey that bites back." The council voted the next day. It was not unanimous, but it was decisive. The quarantine on Earth was lifted. Humanity was offered a seat on the Galactic Council, not as observers or junior members, but as full partners. More than that, Earth was offered a new role, protector species. When threats arose that the peaceful Council species could not handle, humanity would be called. In return, Earth would receive access to alien technology, trade opportunities, and a voice in galactic affairs. The Terran Expeditionary Fleet returned to Earth 3 weeks after the battle. They came home not in triumph but in somber pride. Catherine Morrison stood on the bridge as the fleet entered the Sol system and saw Earth ahead, that beautiful blue marble. "Home," she said softly. The ships were met by a fleet of support vessels and shuttles. The wounded were taken to hospitals. The dead were taken to their families. Memorial services were held across the planet, honoring those who had died saving aliens they had never met. Marcus Chen attended the funeral for the members of his squad who had not made it back. He stood in his dress uniform, medals gleaming on his chest, and watched as the honor guard folded the Earth flag and presented it to the families. He had done this too many times. Each time hurt just as much, but he also received letters. Thousands of them. From Zelnari families who wanted to thank him, from children who were alive because he had stood between them and the Kreshkar, from parents who still had their kids because a human they never met decided their lives were worth protecting. Marcus kept every single letter. On nights when the memories were bad, when he dreamed of the battle, he would read them and remember why it had been worth it. On Valora Prime, the Zelnari began to rebuild. But they also built something new, a monument. It stood in the center of their capital city, made of the same crystal they used for their most sacred structures. The monument showed a human marine, standing in full armor, weapon held ready, looking out as if watching for threats. Around the base were carved the names of every human who had died protecting their world. Above it, in letters that glowed with internal light, were words in both